This Bronco is one of the most capable rock crawlers you can buy anywhere. And the question is, can the Land Cruiser keep up with it?
Yeah, that's a great question, Case, because obviously this Toyota doesn't have nearly the same clearance and definitely not anywhere near the same tire that Ford has. However, with Toyota's really sophisticated crawl control system and of course that Land Cruiser heritage, am I going to be able to keep up where that Ford can go? So Case, why did we choose this Bronco for this comparison?
It does feel, in a way, a little unfair, but the way to look at this, the Bronco is the benchmark. This is about as all-out capable of a rock crawler as you can buy from the factory anywhere. So this sets a really good benchmark to see what could that Land Cruiser potentially be competing against on the trail.
Yeah, and ultimately, look, even though you might say, well, these two don't really compete against each other, they're both four-wheel drives, they both are capable of some trail use, and they're both expensive, right? So a lot of Broncos now, $65,000, $70,000. Land Cruiser, $65,000, $70,000. So let's find out what's what. Now, first test for both of these is the steps, Case.
Yeah, and the steps here in the Bronco on 35s and as much clearance as we have is not really going to be much of an issue. It's worth noting this Everglades does not have a front sway bar disconnect, which we'll see come into play maybe a little bit later on. That being said, it still articulates pretty well. There is a bit of moisture on the rocks here. No lockers engaged yet, so we're letting the traction control take over there. But our next obstacle, I am going to be using the lockers.
All right, so easy clear for the Bronco on the steps. Let's see how the Land Cruiser does. So this Toyota Land Cruiser, obviously pretty different form factor than that Ford Bronco, but really excited to see if it's got the chops to keep up with that green Ford. Now we've gone in a low range Case, and this four-wheel drive system a little different than the Bronco.
It is. It's a full-time system, which both you and I like a lot in several vehicles, but this is still going to give us a lot of capability, even though we're rolling on a pretty mild tire. And if you're a little bummed out to see how mild these tires are,
so are we.
So are we, but stay tuned, because very soon we're going to be filming with a friend of ours who has a highly modified Land Cruiser, even on Portals and on 37s, and that's going to be a different story.
Yeah, exactly. But we need to compare stock to stock, and this is a press vehicle that belongs to Toyota, so they wouldn't let us modify it with tires. But even still, I bet you'll be surprised by how far a bone stock Land Cruiser 250 will go. So we're in low range, just four-wheel drive low. I've got nothing locked up, and let's tackle these steps. I'm really curious to see if we'll have the approach angle.
Yeah, so the angles and the clearance on this are definitely a different story than the Bronco. Toyota rates this in ground clearance at about 8.7 inches. And then what about our angles, Tommy?
So approach angle on paper is actually pretty good, about 33 degrees on this Land Cruiser, which is a few degrees less than the Bronco. But with this 112-inch wheelbase and only 8.7 inches of ground clearance, it's going to be a little tricky, I think, getting up these steps without scraping.
Yeah, we're limited, so that's part of the reason that we're going slow. I think we'll be fine here on the steps.
Oh, not bad. Really good, actually.
But we're definitely not going to make it through the day without scraping.
Yeah, and luckily we do have some underbody protection, although we do have these also massive steps that are going to hinder us a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
So next up, we've got the Razor Rocks. What this is essentially a granite wall. It's about 3.5 feet tall. It's very off camber. A lot of potential for rollover here. A lot of potential to hit that tree. So Case is going to go ahead and lock up the Bronco front and rear, and we're going to see if the Ford can make it up the Razor Rocks. Every time we come out here, it gets a little bit worse.
Now I've got a few things going for me with the Razor Rocks, largely front and rear lockers. And the locker engagement here on the Bronco is some of the best in the industry. They pop on immediately, and then you've just got what feels like unlimited control and traction. So far, not really breaking a sweat too much. And clearance is no problem either. Now we've got so much space underneath this Bronco. Really does a great job. So even taking really what I would say is about as hard of a line up it as you can, we're not taking it easy on the thing, and it still does it.
I mean, yeah, that's realistically the hardest line you can do up that.
Yeah.
And it was fine.
Yeah, there's ways you could make going up that much easier.
And you didn't have to do any of that.
And you don't have to. You can take any kind of angle into it you want.
Yeah, I mean,
cool.
that's part of the advantage of having a 37+ degree approach angle.
Yeah.
Over 11 inches of ground clearance. So it's got the angles. It also has a width. This is a wide vehicle, and it just walked right up.
In the Land Cruiser, we're going to want to take a smarter line.
We'll try the hard line first, and then we'll go smart second.
Yeah.
Hard first, smart second. So I thought it'd be really cool to try the same line in the Toyota that Case did in the Ford and see if we have the clearance to get through it. So Case started cranking it right about here.
All right, slowly.
Let's see if we can clear it.
Closing in on it. Keep going slow. All right, stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're kind of right at the point where the tire would start walking up, but I don't want to risk smashing the front bumper.
Yeah.
So I think it's not worth it.
Especially because I'm going to have to start straightening it out, and then that's actually going to dip the front end a little bit.
So I'd go ahead and back up. Yeah, it's like, it's right there.
It's right there. So we're going to take a slightly different line at the Razor Rocks and see if we can at least show off how this four-wheel drive system works, because this is, in my opinion, the greatest aspect of this Land Cruiser is just how capable it is in terms of the traction control programming and some of the off-road goodies here. So I'm in low range. I'm going to go ahead and lock the center diff, because this is a full-time system, so I'm going to lock in the center diff. What I'm doing is I'm forcing the front and rear drive shafts to spin at the same speed. Sometimes it takes a little bit of finagling with these Toyotas to unwind the four-wheel drive system. There you go, that's locked up. And then let's do rear diff lock on 2, no front diff lock on this Land Cruiser, but the reality is, with Toyota's crawl control system and their incredible A-track system, in a lot of ways, you just don't need it. All right, so we're gonna 2-foot it a little bit here. Multi-terrain select. Let's go ahead and let's go to the rock mode. So I'm giving it all the goodies she has. It's all about control on this obstacle, not about speed. You start getting speed involved, you start breaking things. This is actually a case where I'm going to be eating my words a little bit, because what we need here is a front locker. So what I can try is crawl control. What we're got going on here is both rear wheels spinning, left front spinning, but right front not spinning at all, even in the rock mode. So crawl control is going to try to work the wheel speed sensors, and it does work. Look at that. To actually get us up this obstacle. How are we looking, Case?
It's definitely burying the exhaust tip just a little bit. Let me look and see how the bumper is. It's dragging your little mud flap, and the exhaust tip is
pretty buried.
Yeah, face planted in the ground. Your bumper's not touching yet.
Ooh, bad crunchy noises out the back. Come on, Toyota. We're making that transition as gently as we can. Just teeter-tottering her. Oh, this four-wheel drive system really allows a lot of control, though. We may not have the same angles, but this hybrid system is pretty ace. I really like this 2.4 turbo with the standard hybrid system for slow speed modulation. 326 horsepower, 465 pound-feet of torque. Ooh, we need it to grip now, though. We're going to go thrown into that tree. All right, that was good. Even with these all seasons, it's very impressive. A little stressful with these 20-inch wheels. Don't want to curb them. That was a really incredible result for this big old thing on all seasons. Nice spotting, dude.
I'd like to shake your hand, sir. That was some good driving. I gotta say, when I went up in the Bronco, I was bucking around, just letting the lockers do all the work, and I wasn't doing anything special. That was some exceptional control from your end.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it.
To get this up there, it was not easy.
Well, the Toyota makes it pretty straightforward, and that was actually a really good demonstration of crawl control. So a lot of vehicles without a front locker, you get in that three-wheel position and you end up sitting there stuck. But crawl control, it sounds gimmicky, but it's one of the few systems that genuinely has an impact on how far you can make it up a trail.
It's still hard to beat a front locker ultimately, but this vehicle can really go a lot of places even in bone stock form. I'm pretty impressed with that. That was good.
Thanks for spotting. That was great teamwork. So our final test here is truth or dare. We've got a little bit of moisture on this part of the trail. It's pretty steep and we've got some rocks to climb up.
Yeah.
But Case, so much, as everyone knows, of off-roading is down to the tire.
That's true, and we're on a way more aggressive tire here in the Bronco, so obviously that's going to help it in a huge way. Also, so much more tire. It's a 35, so we've got that much more diameter to play around with and help us crawl up over rocks. So they're not very comparable in that sense. But it is worth mentioning, I think that the ride quality in the Land Cruiser is overall generally better than it is here.
This Everglades Bronco came in at $57,000 MSRP. Pretty firm suspension and no sway bar disconnect, and this means that you do end up bucking around a little bit.
For sure, so there's definitely some head toss. In a way, I think the Land Cruiser's got a more refined ride on the trail. But it's also got a lot less clearance and a lot less tire, so there's some give and take there.
Yeah, I mean, and I hate to say it, but it also has just a much nicer interior. You know, even if you spend more for a Bronco, you can get a top spec Bronco Raptor knocking on the door of 100 G's. And it's great that the top comes off. Ooh, a little stuck there. It's great that this is a durable interior, but it's also cheap as chips in here. I mean, the plastic quality, the vinyls they use are just not of a premium feeling material.
No, it's definitely a very utilitarian interior, one that, like you said, it works with the top panels taken off, so it's arguably slightly more rugged in some ways, but it's definitely not as comfortable. It doesn't look as nice. The Land Cruiser interior is great.
Yeah, they did a really good job with that interior in comparison. Even the base model 1958, I think, just feels a little better screwed together than the Ford interior. But it's hard to deny just the crazy capability that the Bronco offers. You know, we just scraped on the underside there, but full underbody protection, rock rails, steel bumpers on this thing. This is ready out of the box to tackle anything.
100%. And we did all of that with no lockers engaged. The traction control system that you get, even in low range when you're just cruising around, works pretty well. But if you really need to crawl up something challenging, the lockers make you unstoppable.
Yeah, they do, especially with just the crazy angles that this Bronco offers. It really is amazing what this machine is capable of straight out of the box, with the compromise that on the road you're dealing with 18 mpg combined.
Yeah.
Right? It's not the quickest thing, especially with the 4-cylinder like we have here, and it doesn't have the greatest on-road dynamics. It's going to be a little squirrely on the highway, especially if you're an I-70 and hit an expansion joint wrong. You know, it doesn't quite give you that confidence.
Yeah, it's nothing that's difficult to control. I think both you and I would be fine living with this vehicle on a day-to-day basis, but it's not as nice.
Now for the next obstacle, truth or dare, we're going to try to take a very similar line to what the Bronco did and see how this thing performs.
And there's just a tiny bit of snow on the trail, so maybe we'll see a slight difference in tire. But really, this Land Cruiser's been performing surprisingly well, especially because you've been driving it really well. You definitely drove the Razor Rocks better and much cleaner than I did. And this Land Cruiser has so much potential, this platform that it's on. It would be really cool if Toyota leaned into it a little bit more.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. I mean, when you look at the options that you can spec out on a Land Cruiser, you know, you can get some additional skid plating, which is great. And some of the Land Cruisers I've seen spec'd out for the press fleet will have like a mild all-terrain tire on them, although poking around on the configurator doesn't really seem like that's an option. But I'm a little bummed that Toyota doesn't do the TRD Pro treatment in this.
Yeah, because I think you could do a lot more with this vehicle and lean into that capability that's baked into what this vehicle is fundamentally, because it's fundamentally very capable, as I think we proved today. It's definitely, there's some areas where it doesn't have quite as much clearance as the Bronco, and the front locker in the Bronco helps in some situations, but we went everywhere with this that the Bronco went.
Yeah.
So that's pretty impressive.
I mean, I think the magic to this Land Cruiser is actually the thing that people hate about it compared to the old 200 series, is that this is fundamentally a lighter vehicle. You know, and when people think Land Cruiser, they want a tank. You know, they want big V8, massively overbuilt in every dimension. But the reality is, and you guys aren't going to want to hear this, but I hated wheeling the old 200 series because it was kind of a pig on a trail.
I mean, even this being a hybrid system, I think that old Land Cruiser was around 1,000 pounds heavier than what we're sitting in right now, and you feel that difference, even though the footprint on them, size-wise, is not that different on paper. Certainly the mass of the vehicle is a lot different, and if you're building out an Overlander, then maybe what you want is different, might be a different story, but on a trail like what we're doing today, this feels much more athletic.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I really do. The more I drive these Land Cruisers, the more I like them more and more. And a lot of that is because the seating position is tall. So you've got a great view of the world, which you don't get in a 4Runner, which you even don't really get in the Bronco in a lot of ways. And this interior, granted, this is a $70,000 Land Cruiser, it's really nicely equipped.
It is. I love the fact that it's going to be a little hard to tell on camera, but these seats are brown. So there's a bit of a two-tone going on here. It's subtle, but it makes this interior look and feel a lot more premium, which is something that I wish Toyota did on more of their premium models, because some of their interiors can be a little monotone. This looks great. It feels good. I like it a lot.
Okay, now we're over at the sawtooth here. The Bronco cleared this easy. Oh,
yeah,
that's
we're
plastic.
On the side step, yeah. So there are limitations to the clearance.
Yeah, so look, I mean, the reality is, you could go buy a Bronco like that Everglades, but even like a Badlands or a Wild Truck or whatever, come out to the Ironclads and have a great day.
Yeah.
This Land Cruiser, you'd probably want to make a quick stop to your tire shop, right? You probably want to make a quick stop to someplace like Toy Tech and get sliders for it. And then you can have a great day. Because as it sits, this is an amazing platform to start with, but it is lacking a little bit in some of those key areas.
If you want to be running trails regularly, but absolutely, you could go buy one of these turnkey, take it out on trail like what we're doing today, and have a lot of fun.
Yeah, you can, yeah, for sure. And look, that Bronco is much more of a crawler. It's marketed as much more of a crawler, it is. But for an everyday vehicle, this Land Cruiser is much better, 23 mpg combined versus 18.
Yeah.
It's got a much nicer interior, it's got more room in here. And the reality is, it's not really that much more expensive. The old Land Cruiser was an $85,000, $90,000 rig. Oh, this might be a $60,000 to $70,000 rig, but it still can do what you need it to do.
Absolutely. So yeah, the Bronco ultimately is better off-road in many ways. But to answer the question at the beginning of the video, can this Land Cruiser keep up?
Yeah, for most
a lot of trails, yeah.
It can.
For probably 80-90% of trails, I'd say so.
Especially for how much you're going to be spending on either of these vehicles. They're not $5,000 beaters. Absolutely. Well, folks, that's all we've got for you today. Case, if folks want to see more of us,
they can check out alltfl.com, where you see everything from all the channels and websites and podcasts. There's a lot.
Yep, if you want to see less of us,
then don't go there.
Anywhere else. Guys, let us know what you think. Thanks for watching. As always, this has been Tommy.
In Case.
We'll see you next time.